Thank you, Lynn. I want to thank everyone for having me here. The support here has been unbelievable. From Bill Walsh, who first called me in January and talked to me about 100-degree weather in Dallas in August, and I was like, whatever, I'm in. It's Detroit and it's freezing. So, but I'm very humbled to be here in front of you, and I'm going to walk around, as you can tell, and the reason I do that is because I'm like 3 inches away from being comically short, and Director Comey's like 58 feet tall, and Joe's huge, and everybody's tall, and I get upset near a podium, so I'm just going to walk around a little bit. When I was 9 years old, as Lynn said, I got a new soccer coach. His name was Randy Robbins. Randy, well, first, soccer coach for me was an incredibly important position. For 9-year-old Kevin, was an incredibly huge soccer fan, sports fan. Sports were everything to me. I wasn't much of a reader, didn't care to draw, didn't want to do any crafts. All I wanted to do was play sports. And given my build, soccer made a whole lot more sense than some of the other sports available. I was pretty decent at soccer, and I loved it. So what I had was a new soccer coach, and that to me meant a new person to try to impress, a new person from which to get praise, I hope, and a new person in my life that was in a very critical role. Well, early on, I got to know Randy, and I liked him immediately. But the other thing that was happening in my life besides the new coach was my home life was falling apart. My folks were on the path to divorce. I'm the youngest of 4 kids. I'm 9 years old. I have no idea what's going on. I feel the tension in the house. I don't get it. I feel like there's a secret that the other kids are keeping from me. I feel like everybody knows something that I don't know. And in that confusion stepped Randy. In what was a very critical moments of my life, he came in and listened. And he provided the best ear that I had ever had to hear my own fears about my family, about what was happening in my life. And it didn't take long before Randy became way more than a soccer coach to me. Randy became a friend and very quickly became my best friend. Now the truth is, there was no truth in him. All the concern he showed me, all the love I thought he had for me was just a lie. And I didn't learn that for a long time. And that lie was something that not only did I not recognize then or even sometime later, but that I didn't even know was on the playing field. I was 9 years old. He was a position of authority, an important person in my life. I never contemplated for a second that he wasn't telling me the truth. What Randy would do was go on to continue to lie, to manipulate me, to groom me, and ultimately to sexually assault me. And the story of my relationship with Randy and what happened, how long it lasted, the techniques he used to groom me is long and sordid, and I couldn't possibly begin to tell you in the 10 minutes that I have with you. As a lawyer, 10 minutes is how the amount of time I generally use to say hello. So I actually laughed out loud when Bill Walsh told me I had 10 minutes to talk. I was like, you don't know me, Billy, do you? But what I have this week and what I was fortunate to be given by the staff was 2 sessions, one tomorrow and one on Wednesday, where I'm going to unpack all of my relationship with Randy, the case that we had against him, what happened in that case, what my family life was like, and my other goal is to answer any questions that I could have from you. And now I've sat on both sides of the table. I've been a prosecutor for 12 years. I've done a lot of child exploitation work, and I think there's something to be gained from that, from my story, from my case study, and I hope that you join me later this week. For the remainder of my time, though, what I'd like to talk about is not about Randy, but it's about you, and it's about us and the work that we do. You see, if you're like me, and you meet people and tell them what you do for a living, you often get 2 responses. And by the way, before I talk about what those responses are, I got to tell you, as much as it's uncomfortable to talk about Randy, I'm oddly comfortable here because I'm in a room full of people who get it, we understand what it's like. If I told you a story of a 26-year-old man that volunteered to be a soccer coach of a boys' team with no kid on the team, about half of you would be like, well, I want that guy's screen name. You guys get it and you understand. I don't have to explain things to you. And so there's comfort here for me. But the people that I talk to and tell them what I do for a living, again, if you're like me, you could tell part of the story. I could tell them I'm a lawyer and most people would know what that means. Or I could tell them I'm a prosecutor and a little less would know what that means, but a lot would know. And then the people I would tell that I'm a prosecutor of crimes against children, that's this group that really knows what that's like to be involved in this fight. But the people who don't know, and there's a lot that don't, often have two responses, and that's really what I want to talk about. I'm bringing down the house. The first is, you often get this, I don't know how you do what you do. There's also the caveat to that, which is, I could never do what you do. And I never know how to take that. It's kind of a compliment. I like to hear, like, you're brave. It's awesome that you can do that. And it's kind of an insult. You must be pretty messed up to be able to do stuff like that. And I'm never quite sure which one it is, and I got to tell you, I think it's probably both in some ways. But I don't mind it, and I don't get mad at them. But there's also an element, often of those same folks that give you this first phrase on what you do, that it would seem to me would rather not even know about what we do. And some of those, for my law enforcement folks, are people who are on your force, people who are in your office. And you start telling them about one of your cases, and they do one of these. I don't want to hear this. I don't want to know about it. And that troubles me. Because this group here, where we live in the dark corners of the human existence. We shine a light into those corners. And we go into them unafraid. We deal with the depravity and the disgusting underbelly of mankind. That's what we do. And you don't have to fight this fight with us. I never want someone to fight this with us if they don't want to. But shame on you when you don't want to know that it exists. And it troubles me greatly that they feel this way. Because not only do we not feel this way, but most of us rise up every morning knowing that the dark corners are there, knowing we're going to go in there. And we do it proudly. Now, some of you go in with guns drawn to those corners, and some of you go in with arms open for the kids in those corners. And some of you have to do both. And I got to tell you that it's awesome that you're willing to go into the dark corners, that you're willing to marinate and be in that disgusting underbelly. And I'm proud to call you guys colleagues, and I think it's amazing that you do the work you do. And I'm not alone, and that leads me to the second thing that people say when they talk to me about the work I do. And I'm sure you're like me, and maybe you hear this too. A lot of them will say, well, I'm glad you're doing what you're doing. Man, it's amazing. You're a what? You're a hero. Did you hear that? Director Comey even talked about the heroes in his group. Have you heard that before? I have, and I think it's right, if I can say so. I think we are heroes. I think what we do by going in those corners, by dealing with things that so many people would rather not even know exist, is amazing. The season of life that I'm in right now, heroes are super important to me. I have 3 kids. I have a 6.5-year-old who wanted me to let every one of you know that she's almost 7. I have a 4-year-old and I have a 1-year-old. So the notion of heroes is super important in my life and in my family. In fact, I was on vacation a couple months ago with my kids, and I asked my middle child, my oldest son, I said, hey man, why do you like heroes so much? What is it about heroes that get you so excited? And I was thinking about you. I was thinking about this group. and what I would say to you. And he said, well, Dad, you see, heroes can do things that everybody else can't do. And I thought of you. And I thought, you're right, man. That's true. You guys get this, we come to trainings like this, right? And you get this special knowledge. You get this amazing ability to do things that most people can't do. And I was like, that's good, buddy. What else? And he said, well, Dad, heroes get the bad guy. And I thought of you. And I said, that's right, we do. We get the bad guys. And I said, what else? This is good stuff, man. You're writing my speech for me, buddy. And he said, well, heroes have capes. And I thought of you a little. And then I thought better of it. And it dawned on me from his perspective that when heroes come in, they come in with capes. They come in to save the day. They come in to get the bad guy. And what I want to do is not just thank you for doing the work that others won't, but I want to challenge you and challenge all of us, this is me included, to earn your cape today and earn your cape every single day. So that time when you're sitting on surveillance for like 6 hours and you're trying to figure out what the point of this is? I'm asking you to earn your cape that day. When you're sitting in the witness stand and that grimy defense attorney is asking you questions that in that courtroom he's trying to make it like you're the bad guy, I want you to earn your cape. And I challenge you to earn your cape when you're in front of some crusty old judge who's trying to figure out what the interwebs are that you're talking about. And he's hammering you. And he's telling you it doesn't matter what you do. And that we're being too harsh. And when you have to go into a family situation and you're a CPS worker and you have to make that impossible call about this family that sucks, but whether that kid would be better off without them, earn your cape. And for those of you who have to be the first face that those kids see in that room, and they're asking you, you're asking them to tell you about the worst moments of their life, earn your cape. For those of you who have to go back to that computer lab and look at the images of our kids being raped and tortured, earn your cape. Because I'm going to end, and I want to say one other thing, that I mean earn your cape, I mean this challenge for you and for me and for all of us when it's hard and not when it's easy. I don't care if your bad guy is Jerry Sandusky. I want you to earn your cape when your bad guy is Randy Robbins, some nobody loser. And maybe it's easier to earn your cape when your victim is Elizabeth Smart, and she deserves all the justice that everybody else does. But I'm asking you to earn your cape when your victim is some nobody from some nothing town in Michigan like me. Because I want to end where I began, which is when I was 9 years old and then into 10 years old. I eventually was broken away from Randy, and I was safe. To tell you, I didn't know that I was safe at the time. But looking back, I knew when I was safe at about the age of 10. And for years, I told no one. And for years, I sat there to try to figure out all the lies, the manipulation. I was left to deal with words like betrayal that I didn't even know were words before him. But the main thing that I remember, the main thing that stood out to me in that season, in that period, was how lonely I was. And how much I wish I had somebody with a cape. How much I wish I had a hero. How much I wish I had somebody like you. So earn your cape for every one of those kids that are just like me. Because we need you. As we sit here this week and as we learn the stuff we're going to learn, there is a kid out there just like me who's trying to figure this thing out. And I don't want them to be alone anymore. It was no fun then, It's no fun now. Please go earn your cape.